Hey everybody, a warm welcome to the show. I'm Rebecca McLaughlin-Easton. It's a new decade, it's a new year, and that means it's a new season for Inspire Middle East. In this episode, I'm coming to you from Qasr Al Watan, the Emirati presidential palace located right here in Abu Dhabi. A little later on, we'll dig into some historical gems as we head to Al Quwain to see how filmmakers and conservators are bringing the UAE's past to life. We'll also visit Iraq to discover how artifacts taken in times of war and social unrest are slowly being recovered. But first, come with me as I take a tour of one of the UAE's latest cultural landmarks. It's a place which translates from the Arabic to mean Palace of the Nation. Qasr Al Watan is surrounded by lush, manicured gardens and housed within the 380,000 square metre presidential palace compound. The monument took 150 million man-hours to build, and its facade was constructed of white granite and limestone. My tour of the imposing venue started in the Great Hall, which boasts one of the largest domes in the world and reflective installations by Emirati artist Mata bin Lahej. My guide began by explaining the significance of the palace's palette of pastel colours used in the 5,000 geometric mosaic wall and floor patterns.
Now, the palace has three main colors. These colors are the blue colors, the yellow colors, and the white colors. Each color represents a certain characteristic from the United Arab Emirates. The blue represents the Arabian Gulf waters. The yellow represents the Arabian sands. But the white represents the purity and peace.
A major draw for tourists is the House of Knowledge and a lending library of around 50,000 books exploring the UAE's political, social, literary and cultural history. And then there's a room called Spirit of Collaboration, designed to host meetings of the UAE's Federal Supreme Council, as well as regional summits.
It's very important that everyone can see the other, but also it's as important as emphasizing that there is no specific leader is superior to the other. So that's why the design of the room is circular.
The room's central feature is a grand chandelier of 350,000 crystals, and it's only illuminated on special occasions.
This room is specifically designed to host three types of meetings. The first one is the GCC summit. The second one is the OIC meeting, which is the meeting for the Islamic countries. And the last one is the League of Arab States.
Political and faith leaders who have visited Qasr Al Watan in recent times include Pope Francis. And many diplomatic gifts are on display within the presidential gifts room, including a Swiss quartz rock, which the palace estimates to be around 20 million years old. And because no state visit would be complete without a presidential dinner, this 300-seat banquet hall is laid with 149,000 hand-engraved pieces of fine bone china tableware. Abu Dhabi's police band, called the Symphony of the Nation, provides a musical welcome to state visits, and if they're lucky, tourists to the Palace of the Nation might also receive a similar reception. From the city of Abu Dhabi, we now head a couple of hours' drive away to the Emirate of Al Quwain and to one of the most important archaeological sites in the UAE. Salim Saeed visited the location to learn more about a once-lost city of Arabia.
Under an expanse of sand lies one of the UAE's oldest known historical sites, the lost port city of Ad-Dur. According to UNESCO, since the 1970s in the Emirate of Al Quwain, archaeologists have been unearthing remnants of civilizations dating back to the prehistoric period of Mesopotamia. Among residential homes and burial sites emerges the area's most notable ruin, the Pagan Shemesh temple, which once stood nearly 2,000 years ago. At this temple, Aramaic inscriptions of the word sun were found, believed to be the god the people who lived here worshipped thousands of years ago. This discovery and others are helping experts piece together the existence of early settlers that lived in the area of Ad-Dur. Uncovered in the 1980s, the structure has suffered years of erosion since. In 2016, Dr. Zeki Aslan and his team at the International Center for the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property took on the task of restoring the structure.
This temple is unique. It's from the 1st century, and there is nothing actually compared to it apart from 2 temples, one from the Hellenistic period in Egypt and one in Persia.
Of particular interest is the temple's illusion of carved stone. Predominantly made up of beach rock, the use of nanotechnology revealed that the plaster rendering the outside of the structure was made of sand and lime mortar. Authentic fact-finding, says the archaeologist, is key to unlocking the temple's true story.
We are trying to instill this culture of conservation and restoration. There is a tendency to look into conservation as reconstruction sometimes. We try to avoid falsification of the history by way of doing the restoration.
Building upon the archaeologist's work, others are looking to bring the structure back to life, filling in the gaps and allowing viewers to step into its world through CGI technology. Saudi Arabian documentarian Henna Meki has been producing a series about the UAE.
Archaeology is probably not the most attractive thing to look at. The CGI, the LiDAR scanning, it gives it that visceral experience more that people, and especially young people today, can hopefully relate to.
Henna has been working with archaeologists to animate how African, Persian, and Mesopotamian traders conducted business in the former bustling port city of Ad-Dur during the pre-Islamic era. And in the wider UAE, she's also mixing facts and fun in edutainment, breathing life into snake etchings found in Wadi Saham in the Emirate of Fujairah. The reptile was thought to be worshipped during the Iron Age as a link to underground resources like precious water. Digging up another story from the UAE's archaeological past, and another piece in the puzzle of its history.
Decades of war have left scars on Iraq's landscape and gaping holes in its cultural archive. Rosie Lees-Thompson has more on the artifacts that were illegally removed or stolen from the country, and not all of them to yet be returned.
Beneath Iraq's sands lies the ancient region of Mesopotamia. Situated between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, it is where many believe human civilization was formed. The region not only radiated in literature, politics, and art, but also left a considerable scientific legacy in the fields of mathematics and astronomy, according to UNESCO.
And we do have at least 15,000 archaeological sites in Iraq, representing the long history of Mesopotamia. It is one of the richest archaeological components in the world. When you dig in Mesopotamia anywhere in Iraq, you would find antiquities.
But years of war and instability have left Iraq prone to looting. In the middle of the 19th century, European explorers furnished their country's museums with their finds from Iraq. And after the 1991 Gulf War, heavy UN sanctions led many to illegally dig to earn income on the black market. But it was the aftermath of the 2003 US-led invasion that the legal trade of stolen antiquities ramped up. The National Museum in Baghdad was ransacked with 15,000 artifacts stolen. It took 12 years for the museum to reclaim some of its looted items and reopen. But the hunt for Iraq's treasures continues. Wafa Hassan leads a small team of archaeologists and lawyers turned detectives. Scouring the internet on sites like eBay and international auction houses, they track down their country's artifacts and work with embassies, international museums, and Interpol to bring them home. But despite their finds, it's still an uphill battle. There are an estimated 15,000 archaeological sites across Iraq, and only 10% have been excavated. Many sites are unprotected and left vulnerable to thieves.
That the sites, you cannot control it, and you cannot stop the looting of these sites. So it's a continually process that each day they take 10, maybe hundreds of items, and they loot it out from Iraq.
When the so-called Islamic State group swept across Iraq in the summer of 2014, they took control of a third of the country, including the second largest city, Mosul, and hundreds of archaeological sites. As a result, many priceless antiquities were demolished or smuggled to fund their operations. In 2015, the group entered Mosul Museum and destroyed ancient artifacts, including statues like these that date back to the Syrian Empire in 3000 BC. But these Lamassu statues are actually not the originals. They're replicas of those seen in the British Museum. As part of a project to restore cultural heritage, the Syrian statues were donated to the University of Mosul by the British Museum and the charity Factum Foundation. I went to visit Factum Foundation in London to find out more. Through technology and craftsmanship, these human-headed winged lions were created.
So we recorded the Lamassu at the British Museum, and they're these huge gypsum statues which are about 4 meters high and 4.5 meters long. And they were recorded using a structured light scanner. The data was then processed and it was carved using a robotic drill into very high density polyurethane. This is then cast in scagliola, which was then coated in wax. You can get a very accurate representation of gypsum and of the originals.
Although these models can never replace the original lost artifacts, they can play an important role in keeping their memory alive.
Well, that is a wrap of our first show of the new year. We hope you enjoyed it, and do be sure to follow us on social media. Speaking of which, here are some Instagram posts that we especially liked this week.
Elena from Russia was delighted to see the Lamassu statues at the National Museum of Iraq. Maula from Indonesia said she enjoyed learning more about the history of the UAE upon a visit to Qasr Al Watan. And Lisa from France took a vacation in the UAE and especially liked the Al Jahili fort in the Emirate of Al Ain.